Glasgow, Oslo, Stockholm, Lisbon, Palermo, Monte Carlo. From these cities on January the 23rd, 1951, over 300 cars set out on the 21st Monte Carlo Rally. For 3 days and 3 nights, the 6 columns of cars crisscross over most of Western Europe before converging in central France. In order to complete the road section of the rally without loss of marks, an average speed of 31 mph or 50 kilometers per hour must be kept up.
Glasgow, on a murky January afternoon. That's where the rally began for me and 70 of the British teams. Here's Reggie Tongue, a Brooklands veteran with his Jaguar. Ouch, that's warm. Mike Couper's magnificent Bentley incorporated this original line in fog lamps. And here's our Jupiter going up onto the ramp for sealing. Various vital parts are colored with a special paint, and these marks are checked on arrival at Monte Carlo to prevent substitution of the engine parts en route. And now for the big moment. Lord Provost Sir Victor Warren lowers the Scottish standard, and number 206, the Channon Brothers Morris, starts the 1951 rally from Glasgow. 3, 2, 1, and away. A.K. Stevenson checks each car out at minute intervals, a job he's done these many years. And there goes the first of the Hillman team, trim-looking and ready for the 2,000 miles from the murk of Glasgow to the sun of the Mediterranean. Down 2,000 miles to Lisbon in the early evening. This is a popular jumping-off place for the Monte Carlo adventure. Here's Tommy Wisdom in a Sunbeam-Talbot. And Jean Trevoux, 3 times a winner of the rally. The sleek Simca fancied to win the 1500cc class. And now the majestic Delahaye Trevoux driving sets off. Can he make this his 4th win? North to Stockholm, where there were 40 starters. Here's Greta Molander, Sweden's hope for the ladies' prize, and the car, a Swedish SAAB. But the majority of the Scandinavian drivers favored American cars. A few last-minute preparations, and then over to the start outside the Royal Automobile Club, where Captain Hans Torrell flags off the first car, a new BMW. The German drivers returned in strength this year, and here's Liner's Mercedes. Over to Oslo, and the start of the rally's smallest contingent, 8 Norwegian, Swedish, and Danish competitors. Yes, snow already, and there's 400 miles more of it until they reach Helsingborg to cross over to Denmark. From Oslo in midwinter to Palermo, already thinking of spring. The Italians are not yet enthusiastic rally drivers. They prefer the cut and thrust of the road and track racing game. However, although only 20 cars started from the Teatro Garibaldi, there was a large turnout of enthusiastic spectators. Prince Lenza di Trabia, the Sicilian racing driver, in a new Alfa-Romeo. 2, 1, arrivederci. At Monte Carlo, the famous smile of Louis Chiron greets us. Chiron, who is a monegasque himself, naturally carries the hopes of local enthusiasts. Away from a damp Monte Carlo. And having seen the starts, let's return to Sweden. These were the conditions the Scandinavians had to cope with for their first 400 miles. But these northern drivers are thoroughly used to driving on the snow, and this will give them, in fact, quite an advantage. At Helsingborg, Norwegian and Swedish competitors meet up for the short sea crossing to Denmark. At ferry crossings, a time allowance is made. Here it was an hour and a half. Well, fortunately, the straits weren't frozen, otherwise that allowance might easily have been exceeded. On the boat, friends from both countries meet up and swap experiences of their first stretch. Freezing cold didn't prevent Danish enthusiasts from welcoming the drivers and speeding them on their way to their next control point at Copenhagen. And here they are at the Royal Automobile Club at Copenhagen. Now, a word about these controls. Each driver has a route book, which is marked up to show that the car has passed through the control and the time at which the driver reported. Well, the hospitality at Copenhagen is famous, and the drivers are more than ready for their Pilsner and Frankfurters. And then out again into the night and through the deserted city streets of Copenhagen. We leave the Scandinavians crossing the Lillebelt Bridge at dawn. Dawn. At Folkestone, the British drivers had a cold reception after their long night's run through Scotland, Wales, and England. The moon shone brilliantly for most of the way, and the dreaded fog appeared only in small patches. In fact, driving conditions were for once very nearly perfect, and no one had much difficulty in reaching the Folkestone control with time in hand for a brief rest for both men and cars. And here's Philip Fotheringham Parker, the well-known racing driver. The channel was its usual wintry surf, and not a few preferred the icy winds on deck to the bacon and egg atmosphere down in the saloon. Some of us made the most of a very ample breakfast. Others didn't. Padborg, on the Danish-German frontier. Here, the Scandinavians checked in for passport and customs. It's an important part of the rally's regulations that drivers must go through all normal frontier formalities. In point of fact, officials smoothed the way all along the route. And come to think of it, the rally gives a splendid example of international cooperation on a pretty vast scale. And for them, it's next stop Hamburg. Believe it or not, this is Madrid. The Lisbon contingent hit the city at the same time as a snowstorm, and the capital presented a wholly uncharacteristic appearance. Weather like this made the early part of the rally no picnic for the Lisbon starters. North again, this time to Boulogne at midday of the second day. Here comes the Dinard with the British contingent aboard. From Boulogne, their route takes them eastwards through Lille into Belgium, then on through the night to Amsterdam, then back into Belgium, to Brussels, and on to Paris. The long wait on the cold quayside while cars were unloaded, triptychs checked, and money changed was enlivened by a surprise brandy issue which came on the house. Thank you, monsieur. And leaving now is Captain Minchin of London's Metropolitan Police Force with his crew of flying squad drivers. And there goes our Jupiter on the way to our first French control at Lille. Over now to Germany and the arrival at Hamburg of the Oslo and Stockholm drivers. In the suburbs, the first cars are picked up by mobile police and escorted through the city streets to the control point. And this Volkswagen with a German crew was sporting rather an original line in body belts. This car favored a hunting motif. There's Mrs. Molander still with us. and Herr Reintal, a well-known German driver, got a big welcome from friends in Hamburg. These two saloons with fins down the back are Czech tetraplanes. There were few casualties among the Scandinavian contingent at the Hamburg control, and nearly everyone checked in on time. Enjoying yourself? 3, 2, 1, and they're off again from Hamburg. Out of the city, over the Elbe Bridge. And then westward along the wide open Autobahn towards Hengelo. Back to the British contingent, now making speed down the tree-lined road to Lille. Several of the British drivers found themselves with time on their hands outside Lille. As they could not check in at the control ahead of time without incurring a penalty, they lay up outside the town and gave themselves and their cars a much-needed rest. The Lille control, like so many others, was memorable for the lavishness of the buffet. And Gordon Wilkins and I were looking a lot happier after sampling it. Left, right, left, right, left, right, halt! Reggie Tongue returns from a foraging expedition and reports to the skipper. And the best of luck to you, Peter Wall. Brussels, after an all-night run through the Netherlands. Well ahead of schedule, Greta Molander and friends enjoy the Automobile Club's hospitality. Back again into the cold night air as the first Scandinavians check out from Brussels. Car number 1 was showing signs of wear and tear. And so, on into the night, searching out the main road that leads back to France. Ken Rawlings seems to need a pick-me-up. And he's got it. Reims, in the heart of the Champagne country, provided a welcome glass for tired drivers. Taking off now are members of the Monte Carlo contingent. This is Winter, a former U.S. Air Force navigator, and the only American in the rally. And there he goes. Long, straight roads, quiet villages, and some really rapid motoring on the next leg to Paris. Through the busy streets, over the Place de l'Étoile, and then into the hurly-burly of the control point in Avenue d'Iéna. Here comes Van Doorn, driving a good-looking pre-war BMW. Quite a few people are now getting into the control with only seconds to spare. But Mrs. Molander is still with us. The Automobile Club de L'Île de France supplied each car with a well-filled hamper to help the drivers on their way to the south. Just outside the control, the cars are picked up by members of the famous mobile police force of Paris. Some of us were of the opinion that this was probably the fastest stretch we put in on the whole rally. A traffic light hold up by Notre Dame. Then on-speed cars and escort towards the Port d'Italie and the Route Nationale numéro 7 to Bourges. Thank you, my friend. That was a big help. Every policeman along our route was alerted, and traffic control was superb. Here at Montargis, 70-odd miles south of Paris, speeding was definitely encouraged. Allez, allez, vite! The afternoon calm of the cathedral city of Bourges was shattered rudely as the rally cavalcade came sweeping in. Bourges was a focal point of the rally, for by now every contingent had converged. The Italians were the last to join the column. As usual, the arrival of Louis Chiron brought a cheer and a flurry of activity among the photographers. A quick shave for Duchess Gatsonides and a smile from these two charming rallyists. Got your route book and your hamper? Goodbye. A few hours more, and we're in the heart of the Massif Central at Clermont-Ferrand. Clermont, a hive of motoring enthusiasm, is the home of France's Grand Prix champion Louis Rosier, and the whole town turns out to watch for his car, a baby Renault. And here it comes. Up go the magnesium flares, and pandemonium reigns while the photographers get to work. Driving the car is Rosier's young son. Father, of course, is sound asleep in the back. Yes, they're proud of the Rosiers at Clermont-Ferrand. The third dawn of the rally finds the early cars entering Castellane in the heart of the Maritime Alps. Rain in the Rhone Valley changed to snow in the mountains. The sting of the Monte Carlo Rally is always in the tail. Let's jump forward a bit, still with the early cars, to catch the first arrivals at Monte Carlo. And what a morning. An icy wind from the sea and torrential rain greeted the unfortunate early birds. Immediately on arrival at Monte Carlo, the dog-tired drivers find themselves confronted with a test which would be difficult enough at the best of times, the braking and acceleration test. It's foot hard down to a line 150 meters ahead. Slide front wheels over the line, reverse, then flat out to the finishing line 50 meters away. Beautiful example of how to do it. Back, forward, and away to the finish. Perfect. Now a dramatic moment. Here comes Louis Chiron with a clean sheet so far. A good performance here, and he's a likely winner. But he misses his gear. He finds it, but it's no good. 27 seconds. Yes, it was tough luck on Louis Chiron. Now let's get back to the later contingents. For half the rally is still strung out over the Alpes-Maritimes in the mountains, and they're having the worst of the weather. The casualties begin to appear, off the road, fortunately. Otherwise, the whole rally would be held up on what has now become a narrow single track. Yes, it's pretty as a Christmas card, isn't it? But there's nothing pretty about these roads and the surface. This snowplow has just been in action clearing a passage through the worst drifts. And now the cars come shooting into the square at Castellan like corks from a bottle. Three British cars, Austin A90, Jupiter and Humber, travelling fast and giving no quarter. And here comes Adam's Daimler, Waring's Jaguar and our Jupiter. And now watch this lot. Ken Carter cornering in great style. And this Simca isn't wasting any time either. Out of Castellan and onto the Col de Pilon, more than 1,000 meters up and snow all the way. And then the last of the snow. We drop down and down into Provence. And there's the sun and some summery-looking clouds. A last thankful look back at the mountains, and then, right ahead of us, the sight we've been waiting for, the sea. And now each corner brings a lovelier view, and soon through the trees, we catch our first glimpse of grass. A friendly welcome from the perfume capital of France, and then onwards and downwards past mimosa and olive groves. So to Nice, along the Promenade des Anglais. And then out onto the Basse Corniche with its endless bends and bridges. And yes, that was it, the frontier post of Monaco, and we've arrived. And now for that braking and acceleration test. And here comes Louis Rosier. He's lost no points on the road section, and he makes no mistake here. 25.8 seconds. And the first phase of the rally is over. The cars and drivers rest at last. Next morning, the cars which have spent the night in a guarded car park are inspected. The seals are checked and points are deducted for mechanical defects. This Kaiser collected a snow-heavy telegraph pole. Yes, there were plenty of dents. After a 24 hours rest, the leading 50 cars fight out the final battle of the rally, a speed and regularity test over the Monte Carlo Grand Prix circuit. This course of 3 kilometers, 180 meters through the city streets is a severe test indeed. Louis Rosier was, of course, among the chosen 50, and on the line beside him is Reggie Tongue's Mark V Jaguar. The cars lap the circuit 6 times. The first 2 laps are to familiarize the drivers with the course. The idea then is to complete the remaining 4 laps as fast as possible, but at the same time, trying to average identical speeds on each lap. It's a nicely balanced test. Racing ace Rosier shows what can be done with a baby car, but that Renault is quite a baby. Perfect cornering on the tight bends on the way down to the station, and from up here, you can see how fierce those bends really are. Rosier crosses the line to score a win in his class. Meanwhile, Count Monte-Real from Portugal has got his Ford hard on the tail of the battered Kaiser, and he's continually checked on the bends. He claimed a rerun and eventually finished second in the general classification. Now it's the turn of Maestro Chiron, who got lots of points to make up after that braking and acceleration test. With him is a Jaguar driven by Irishman Colin Vard. Chiron, on his own ground, gives an immaculate display, and indeed his speed is such that he catches up on the Jaguar, having gained a lap, and the Irishman certainly wasn't loafing. And just watch the tail flick round. Now down onto the seafront, and there's only yards between the two cars. And that Delahaye is really moving. The Jaguar gets the flag after a fine run. And here's Chiron setting up the lap record. All eyes are now on Trevoux. Like Chiron, he's driving a Delahaye, but he's gained much better marks on braking and acceleration, so he's going to be hard to beat. Sharing the circuit is our own Jupiter, with Gordon Wilkins driving. It's those bends down by the station that really show up the skill. Here Gordon slides the Jupiter round nicely while I was checking our stopwatches. Trevoux flashes past in great style, and he's won for the 4th time. Gordon and I made 10th place, and here now are a few of the thrills and really choice bits of driving of that memorable day. So, finally, to the parade of cars drawn up in order of merit outside the Royal Palace high up above Monte Carlo. His Royal Highness Prince Renier, patron of the rally and a keen motorist himself, comes to present the awards. And here are some of the laurels. Once again, it's first prize to Jean Trevoux, the outright winner of the rally for the 4th time. His co-driver, Crevetto, takes the bouquet from Monsieur Nogues, the rally's chief organizer, and the magnificent Delahaye is fittingly adorned. Cameras click, and well may the victors smile. Leading British car was the Jaguar of dark horse Colin Vard, who was 3rd in the general classification. Our teammates Robinson and Ellison won the 1500 class and also collect the team prize for Giant. 2 more class winners, Rosier and Le Sueur. Mesdames Hustings and Sigrand won the ladies' prize in a Peugeot. And there's Walter Waring, who tied 6th with Wharton. Mike Couper's well-equipped and graceful Bentley scored an outright win in the Concours de Confort. Our Jupiter, 10th and 2nd in its class, and more comfort awards for Hillman's. A well-earned bouquet for Mrs. Molander. And that was how it all ended. The not-so-easy 1951 Monte Carlo Rally.